Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Well, here we are yet again. Can you imagine? And it is May 1st.
Yes.
Workers of the world unite. Doesn't mean that around.
Rabbit, rabbit, rabbit.
Oh, stop it.
You hate that.
Is that the first of every month you
Yes,
do that?
first of every month you say that.
God,
At least that's what Wally Phillips, who was, well, no, not your equal. I mean, he was like this grand radio person in Chicago for 100,000 years on crack of dawn of the morning. So I always remember waking up and breakfast with my family with Wally Phillips.
And he's the one who said rabbit, rabbit,
yes,
rabbit.
Yes, yeah. So it's just so
Ingrained.
inculcated, yes.
It is. It's ingrained. Well, okay, so the first, Tom Sokolowski joining us.
You guys are matching.
Oh, yes, we're both
We're
white.
in white.
For 1st of May, like, just like loony girls at Bryn Mawr College running down the lawn with white skirts and flowers in her and hoops.
Okay, so the girls going around the maypole, that's just totally girls dancing around a phallus, right?
I think originally that was part of it.
That sure
yes.
is what it was.
And Bryn Mawr is the weirdest place. Oh, and it's very odd that the new president of the Carnegie went to Bryn Mawr. When someone said, "What do you think?" I said, "Well, I've never known anyone from Bryn Mawr who wasn't wacky."
Who was nuts? Yeah, they are. It's
Sometimes brilliant, but
nuts.
But nuts, yes.
Well, surely
we'll
there
see.
had to be. Can you imagine a totally sane, normal girl, going there and not knowing that that's the reputation?
Right, exactly.
God help her. God help her. Okay. So, as long as we got you, as long as you're the Warhol maven, what is this big to-do? They find, and it was a big to-do. Well, they made a big to-do about it. They've been working forensically on this, trying to figure out how to use this old computer
I think
that
it
he
was,
had.
let's put it this way.
They found some images.
I think it was a situation where a lot of constituent parts with different agendas, and I don't mean that in a negative way, when the computer was first coming out to be used popularly, one man who was involved with this company, Amiga, which hasn't been in business for a long while as I understand it, offered Warhol this computer for a year in exchange for a work of art.
Okay, so this would have happened in the 70s, no? Early 80s?
No, in the,
When would this have been?
I think it was the
mid-'80s.
Well, no, probably early 80s, but anyway. I'm trying to remember exactly. Probably like early 80s, yeah. Anyway. And Warhol, as he was interested in everything new and interesting, started playing around with this. Well, the museum found some discs that were involved with this computer.
Recently, you did not know. You had the computer?
Well, we had some of this material, but, there was so much junk there that the museum is still going through. And everyone thought, Amiga, it's so old, no one would ever be able to unlock it because it was such an old-fashioned technology.
And so CMU was brought in?
So CMU, the museum had been doing some work for my time with various professors on different kinds of things with our website and blah, 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 blah. So they were able to decode it, I guess that's the word is. And what is found from what I've seen and what some people at the museum have told me before all this launched is some tryouts that Warhol made, very much, as I understand it, with, various of these computer people looking over his shoulder saying, "Oh, try this, Andy, you can do this." And of what I've seen, the images aren't particularly interesting.
Was he actually? They had these
Well, I
computers
don't know
were
exactly.
able to draw, or
well,
was
I don't.
he,
That I don't.
You don't even
that
know
I don't
how
know
he made these images.
No, that I don't know enough. There's this film. So anyway, basically, what happened was there was this. I said this collision, if you will, with Carnegie Museum of Art. I can't remember why they got involved with it. There's some reason they did.
Right.
Carnegie Mellon University and the Warhol Museum, because they had the stuff. And a film was made about this, finding the computer and what they did. And it's going to be shown, I believe, next week, sometime in mid-May. And basically, Warhol always worked collaboratively. And he always had people, he would say things like, "Oh, what should I make? What subject should I do?"
And people
someone
would just say,
yeah, and they'd do it. Or he would work with people in silk screening. And in this way, he knew nothing about the computer. So people would say, "Oh, look, Andy, it can do this with color," or "Look, it can put buzzy lines." And so he'd try it. And the few images I've seen were images that he was working on in his more, in quotes, traditional art.
Right.
And he was then trying to replicate them, change them, etc., online.
Right.
And whether you can call them works of art, I don't know. But I would say they're analogous to
Well, are there
sketches.
computer-generated things that are considered works of art now?
Oh, yeah, definitely. Artists working with computer things.
So
And they're never really computer generated because someone has to push the buttons.
Right.
It's not like you say, "Computer, think," You can, well, even now.
So why these would be considered? It was Warhol manipulating the computer.
Right, I would say they may not be finished works of art, but they certainly would be akin to sketches that an artist makes before he makes the final work.
But they're on the computer. Obviously, they can be printed.
They can be printed out, right, exactly. But they're on.
So where is it? What do you think will
discs.
happen to these? Will people want to buy them? Will they be
who
worth
knows?
a lot of?
Who knows?
Who knows? Okay, so you're not as. It made it sound like wowee. You're not as.
Well, I think the point was, anytime you have someone like Andy Warhol, who was such an extraordinary artist, plus you add to it an artist whose works have been selling for such outrageous prices. And it's a question of everything he touches turns to gold. Well, not really. And so people are interested, but of course, with the press machine being what it is, someone at the museum told me that they had, I don't know how many hit when the story ran.
Oh,
how
I can't
many
even
people
imagine.
were interested.
Well, it says that within moments of it being made public, Jay-Z had already written a verse about them.
Okay.
You don't own a Warhol, do you?
No. That's, totally inappropriate. I suppose I could
What do you
now.
mean it's totally
Well, because the point is, some people say, by professional standards, that people who work in museums shouldn't collect any art. I think many people, because the question is, would I have the inside track on things? Could I manipulate the market? So, what has happened now, I think, is many people say, like, if I wanted to really collect seriously, I should collect Chinese export rare.
Something that has nothing to do
ceramics.
with Yeah.
But now I suppose I could, since I'm no longer director of the Andy Warhol Museum, I could collect Warhol, but still it might be skanky. Because people that may say they owe me favors or something like that, it's just, I wouldn't be doing it on a level playing ground. It would be like you, in an inappropriate way, using your bully pulpit.
Well, I understand, because, reporters, it just blows my mind. There are a lot of reporters who literally will not even vote. Do you believe that?
Well, that's foolish,
I think that's absurd.
Yeah.
But they definitely will never, contribute to any campaign. They won't this, they won't that.
Well, that's
they
different.
Won't,
But
no,
voting is secret,
that.
so how would one
I
know
don't
what
know. I
Lynn
think
Cullen,
that's so
Lynn Cullen
crazy.
and Tom Sokolowski votes
I
for?
forget how many, some very big reporter once said he had never voted in his life. And maybe it's because he wants to remain,
or he knows
it's like
too much,
Caesar's
so to
wife.
speak.
No, maybe he just wants to, even if he wanted a certain person to win, that might infect his ability to write.
Neutrality.
Yeah, maybe, I don't know. It would mine. You just slip in a little adjective here. You slip in a little adverb there.
Well, but the only thing is, but I mean,
bias
given you,
issue.
for example, I mean, you're very...
Well, I'm right out there.
Yeah, I mean, about what your
I'm not
political
a
viewpoints
reporter.
are. Right.
I'm an opinionator. Is that a word? Maybe.
Yeah, maybe.
Okay, so we disposed of Warhol.
I think so.
So I think what's interesting, especially, is when I asked you if you owned a Warhol, and you said, well, maybe you could now. I thought you would say, I can't afford one.
Well, that's obvious.
Well, but they sell for hundreds of millions of dollars.
Well, not all of them. I mean, you could buy...
you could buy mine.
What
You've
yours?
seen mine.
Oh, yes, your doodle or whatever.
My doodle, that's my disappearing doodle.
Disappearing doodle, right. But no, one could buy a drawing for... A little drawing probably for $5,000.
Yeah. Well, I want you to know I paid $1,000 for my disappearing doodle.
Oh, really?
Yes.
Oh, I thought I couldn't remember the story. I thought he had given it to you or something years ago.
No. It was a fundraising auction, and I was the auctioneer, and it was our last big to do.
Oh, I see.
It was a very rudimentary Campbell soup can that had been done in probably 2 seconds by Warhol somewhere here. And then he, who knows, gave it to somebody. And it was, I don't know. But it really looked like the real deal, and it was signed and all that stuff. And no one would buy. I mean,
Really?
The audience just sat there like this. And I got so annoyed that I said, all right, we're starting the bidding. I'll start the bidding if none of you will. And I said $1,000. And that is stealing this work of art. 1,000. All right, we got 1,000 on the table. Do I hear?
And it was a steal from your bank account.
There wasn't. Everybody just sat there looking at me, and I thought, you SOBs!
Well, I'm just
you
stuck me with it. But no, the question is, what time period was this?
The late 90s.
Oh my God! Well, already the prices were so you think people would have jumped at it?
Well, yeah. So anyway, I got it, and I brought it home and proudly put it on my wall. And then over the years,
It faded.
It just began to disappear.
Well, see, there's a
And by
lesson.
the time,
There's a lesson now that our listeners do not put your works of art, whatever they're...
where the sun is shining.
where the sun is shining, yeah.
It literally, because all the photographs of my family I have in my living room have disappeared too. It's like, if you want to make something into a ghost, bring it into my living room, because it just disappears over time. So there's just the faintest image now, and I have it in a darkened corner in another room, and I hope a little bit. To me, it's funny now, my Warhol. Well, isn't that funny?
Well,
it's got a nice little frame. And I say, that's my Warhol. There was a poem I memorized when I was in high school, and it just occurred to me. I almost started saying it because, say, that's my Warhol.
Oh, that's
wall.
my Last Duchess.
That's my Last Duchess. By who?
Yeah.
That's my Last Duchess.
Browning?
Might have been. That's my Last Duchess. This is being said by a man who's showing the portrait to somebody on the wall. It is. It's Browning. What a great poem that is.
It's very grim.
Because it's a story. You're listening to this guy, and that's my Last Duchess on the wall, and you're totally into this only. And he killed her.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to remember the last stanza. It was something like, and then all smiles stopped.
Yes, right.
Something like that. Oh, my God, it was such a story. Look it up. My Last Duchess. Incredible. All right. So, let's quickly dispatch with the execution story.
Which was not a quick dispatch to make a very modern
No,
poem.
No.
It was horrible.
Horrifying. Well, there's an interesting piece in the New York Times about the coverage of this in Europe. And the Europeans are they first of
Well,
all.
because most countries in Europe.
Well, none of them but
don't
one.
do
There's one, and it's Belarus.
Oh, how nice.
Belarus is the only European country
White Russia, yes.
that still executes, and they do it. They don't have any problem with the way they do it. They dispatch very quickly. Bullet to the head. If you want to, if we think you're supposed to kill, then that's what we should do. Bullet to the head.
Because this is not the first time that
this has got to stop. This is, if you stop and think about it, our Constitution, specifically prevents.
Oh, I love it. She's pulled out this bookmarker from the ACLU, which has all the.
Yeah, the first. Well, it has a lot of the commandments.
The commandments of grand liberality.
Anyway, the very definition of cruel and unusual punishment, which is not something any American is to suffer.
Right.
Cruel and unusual punishment is what happened to this guy. Yeah, he was awful.
Yeah, right.
His crime was horrific. His victim suffered.
Right.
But that doesn't, people get hung up on that. How does it correct anything by...
Well, where was it? Because it was yesterday's paper. It was either the Times or the local paper saying that from, 1970, when we had, I've got how many people on death row, we now have...
A gazillion.
Oh, gazillion.
And we don't, only Texas is killing them.
Right.
Texas and Oklahoma and
And
Florida,
this business
Georgia.
of, that we would teach them to be prisoners, to be re-emerged into society, changed, purified, whitened, bleached. And, in point of fact, it's just the opposite. And it's costing $1 zillion and then this horrific thing,
And just to make clear, the condemnation of the United States in regard to capital punishment in Europe is bipartisan. It is across there, so that the most conservative newspapers were howling about this. And the best thing I saw written was somebody tweeted, this is a European tweeted, how could Oklahoma botch an execution? If there's one thing I would expect Americans to know how to do by now, it's kill somebody.
Oh, that's a line.
Isn't that good?
That could actually be chiseled on a plinth.
Right, on a plinth. Ooh. There it is. But whoever that anonymous poster is
wow.
I mean, even the nations of Britain and France the governments put out statements decrying, condemning.
Well, but those French, weren't they the ones who had the guillotine?
Yeah, but the guillotine you die fast with the guillotine.
That's true too.
No.
And there's some place that they still use it, I think.
I think so too. But
it's in China or someplace like that.
I don't know, but it's quick.
Yeah, right. I don't know.
So,
ka-chop. Oh, I've stopped from since we like talking about words. I wonder where that word botch came from.
Hey, Jess, can you look up the derivation of the word botch?
Because it just sort of oozes like a mess.
No, but it's onomatopoeic, right?
Yeah, I guess.
Which is why I was almost going to say it almost sounds Yiddish because...
yeah, it does sound sort of Germanic.
Yeah, because there's all those... Botch. You get anything? No.
Like making a total mess of it.
Yeah. It's really good. What does it mean? What is it from?
Middle English, botch, from Anglo-French.
Okay.
Vulgar Latin, botia.
Okay.
I don't know.
So it is Latinate.
14th century.
Oh.
First use we know of 14th century, so that's been hanging out for a long time. The other thing I just want to note in regard to our penchant for killing people here in the United States and now our bumbling inability to
do so
when the state is involved to do it. The reason that you're getting this disastrous outcome in Oklahoma and other states is because these states are mixing their own poisons.
Right,
They're
that's right.
coming up with their own toxic recipes. And obviously, they're incapable of doing it, which is interesting because you think, how hard can it be? They have access to all.
Yeah, right.
But the stuff they used to use, sodium thiopental, I don't know how you pronounce it. These were mostly made in Europe, and now all those European drug makers have stopped producing this stuff. And part of the reason is they also, if they have drugs that could be used in executions, they are not exporting them.
Okay, right.
Because they fear that the European Union can sanction them. So all of a sudden, oh, dang, the drugs we got to kill these mostly black men are unavailable. So we've been making our own, and it turns out we don't know how to do it. So, ridiculous. Just barbaric, and it's the word that you see over and over and over again in the European Europeans looking at it. Okay. I hate Republicans. I'm sorry. I know a few that I actually
Really?
like. Yeah, but I mean, I was just looking at how all these damn senators, Republican senators, with the exception of one, and I credit him, Bob Corker of Tennessee, every single one voted to prevent the Senate from
The minimum wage thing.
from raising the minimum wage. And you know, all I could think when I looked at that is I thought, wouldn't you love to take every one of those effing Republicans and stick them
In a chicken plucking factory.
in a minimum wage job and say, you know, we're just going to do this to you for a month.
Yeah, right.
That's all. Just a month.
Enjoy it, folks.
Yeah. Live on that.
Yeah.
Live on that. Find a place to live, rent. Maybe you'll get a room somewhere.
Find
with
if you have any
kitchen
medical
privileges.
benefits.
Yeah. See, come on. Go ahead. You do it. And then come back in a month and see if you might change your vote. What is with these people? A total inability to empathize, to put themselves in somebody else's shoes.
Well, they are. They're putting themselves in the shoes of their constituencies, the people who own the chicken plucking factories. Frank
The thing
Perdue,
is, though, a
or
lot of if you look at the states that have the highest,
minimum wage.
no, the lowest minimum wages, the most poverty, these invariably are states that vote for Republicans. So what I think sometimes is that has to do with poverty, ignorance, just general inability
Well, but
to
I think it's
comprehend
also
your own.
no. But it's also and how many of those people vote? Number one, and number two, the people who do vote, and now with our new laws of campaign donations, it's the big company owners, the big farming whatever, who want to keep so their businesses will be flying high, so they can have workers plucking chickens and doing other disgusting things for a penny, not giving them any health benefits, etc.
Well, did you see that former Chief Justice John Paul Stevens showed up in front of a congressional committee yesterday and spoke quite eloquently about the fact that this country now needs a constitutional amendment that would set reasonable limits on election spending.
Yeah.
So he came to say, you know, it's a start of a long process, but we've got to do it. Here's another quote from him. While money is used to finance speech, money is not speech.
Yeah, right.
And
That was such a stupid. I never
This
understood
shows
that.
how far we've come. John Paul Stevens is a Republican.
I didn't remember that.
He was appointed by a Republican president, I think maybe by Nixon. I don't know. He said, elections, here's another quote from him, elections are contests between rival candidates for public office. And like rules that govern athletic contests, those rules should create a level playing field.
Yes, right, exactly.
As simple as that, but of course...
But you have the Koch brothers, and they're like, ain't no level playing field.
No. And the current members of the court, the majority, and all Republican nominated, beg to disagree. So, let's get a break out of the way, come back. I've got a very sort of heavy subject about poor people and
please.
poverty that we'd like to take up.
Yeah, please, yes.
Okay. We'd like to take up. Where are you guys? Yeah. Do you want to?
No, E.T.'s going to call you. You just said, call me, baby.
Is that what I said?
In Schwanzingy language.
I wasn't sure what it was, but I thought...
It sounded good.
Did it? Okay. I hope you got the message. We'll be right back.
More is on the way with Lynn Cullen Live.
We will not be an easy target. We will never roll over and let pain plan our day. We will protect our bodies and fight back by moving. We will do our morning laps, walk our dogs around the block, pass up the elevator, and proudly take the stairs. Because arthritis can't beat us if we beat it first. In the fight against arthritis, you need a weapon. What's yours? To learn more, visit us at fightarthritispain.org. This message brought to you by the Arthritis Foundation and the Ad Council.
BergBargains.com is your best bet for great deals in the Berg. Log on today for exclusive bargains from your favorite events and shows like Pyrofest, City Theater, and the Improv, plus discounts on gift cards to the Cheesecake Factory, Wing Hearts, and Rumfish. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn at pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
Okay, so while I was in Chicago this weekend, I was talking to a member of my extended family who's very conservative, and he was talking about... I was talking about the minimum wage with him, and we were not reaching a meeting of the minds, but he was being very, civil, and he said, poverty in this country, he said, it's not like poverty someplace else. He said, you can be a poor person in this country and have a flat screen television and computer and cell phone. And he said, and I don't see people starving in the streets. He said, I keep hearing about how there's so much hunger. He said, so he's not buying it. He's not believing it, because what he sees is people that he can tell don't have much, but they seemingly have things he doesn't think they should have if you're poor. If you're poor, what do you have a cable bill for? You can live without cable. If you're poor, and that a lot of Republicans think like that. Now, I understand that thinking. And
buy bologna before you buy Infinity cable.
Exactly. But there's a piece in the Times today.
Except the only thing about that, though, is that those things which can look like, Infinity, HBO, and all that sort of business, zillions of cable channels. But it's also the way by which we communicate. A computer very soon, maybe not now.
Oh, it's a necessity.
Very soon is a necessity, like a telephone.
No, I agree, it is. I think a telephone.
Or a refrigerator.
I think a telephone is sort of a necessity, and I think a computer is. A big flat screen TV is not, but a television. I mean, if you have no money, then that means you have no ability to get away, to apprehend, to seek out some respite or distraction or entertainment. And television can give you that.
Yeah, right, sure.
And I just don't think that being poor should mean being without any solace.
Being like someone in Burma, in the jungles of Burma.
Right, whatever. So the Times does this piece about how the American poor, they don't look like poor around the world. But because of the Walmartization of this country, things that used to be symbols of wealth are not anymore. They are affordable.
Right.
That phone is affordable, and we would argue necessary. The clothing, all these things have come down in price so that the poor can access things that you would think, well, they're poor. How can they do that? You know what they have more trouble accessing? Much more important stuff. Healthcare.
Yeah, exactly.
Crucial services. The cost of a college education. Forget it. Right? So what remains out of their reach are all the things that could conceivably help pull them
out of that socioeconomic level.
Crucial services are out of reach. Here's another one that prevents them from, let's say, a single mother, poor, wants to get a job, but she has a child or two. Childcare. That's the other one. Childcare, because we as a country refuse to see this as something that maybe the government should provide so people could get out.
And even as I was the first to say, is this a car? Because in many places where there's not public transportation,
well, you don't have.
Get to these
that's
jobs,
right. And most poor cannot afford a car.
Right.
And then let's say they have a car, and that is their means to work. With gas prices the way they are, they can't afford to put gas in it, and the insurance. And so there's a quote here from one guy. He's 38 years old. He's poor. Bobby Bingham of Kansas City, Missouri. And to me, this is the guy that I want Republicans to have to live with for a month. Bobby Bingham works 3 part-time jobs 7 days a week. Okay? And that's simply to make ends meet.
Sort of meet.
That's right. He struggles to cover basic living expenses. His rent, his car insurance, his gas, and utility bills. Just to do that, those 3 jobs, barely do it. He has no room in there to get sick. He has no room in there. If he's sick, he doesn't get paid. These are part-time jobs. He has no benefits. He has no, thank for God for Obamacare. He might have some measure of health insurance now. And he did go to college for a while. And he has $30,000 in student debt.
You know, that's very fun, just to make a bit of parenthesis, but not really getting off this. As I was coming here, I was listening in the car, and a small, no, it's not a small university. Wait, where the hell was it? Temple University, which is not small, 40,000 students. They are setting up a program because this man who was the chancellor of some major position in the university said that they have students who not only have, we all have student jobs, 10 hours a week at the library or something, students who are working 40 hours a week, full-time job.
Amazing.
And so they're saying if students will go back to 30 hours or less a week, the university will find them the money to finish 4 years of schooling. They'll make up for that because they find not only are the students being hampered by so much of that work,
I don't know how you could do that,
but also they're encumbering themselves with so much debt. So I thought this was really, and it was interesting because the NPR interviewer was saying, well, where are you getting the money? And what they did, and they got a lot of pushback from, even from a place like Temple, they have canceled a number of sports being sponsored, which are very expensive, and of course angered a lot of the alumni who love Just to Give for the swimming pool.
Right.
So it was very interesting, I thought. So that plays into this sort of thing. I mean, not as grassroots in a horrible a way, but no, it's just your heart breaks.
And they say that, okay, so you think these people shouldn't have their television or their but if, or cable. Okay, fine. And the economists have said, they'll say, okay, let's get rid of their cable bill. Let's have them sell the TV. let's have them sell all these assets you think they shouldn't
Oh,
have.
yeah. So even a flat screen to use.
And he said, you know what that would do?
$98?
Yeah, it would provide them, a little bit of money, a small buffer for a moment, and then it's
gone.
But
if let's say if they used to have TV, their kids could be watching, we hope, Sesame Street or something. So if they can't get to a decent school, if they're in a rural area, they're learning something. So I mean, TV can provide important or information if like a tornado's coming or something like that. I mean,
we have. I just it is beyond me when I think of how these so many people live. And back to this guy working the 3 jobs in Kansas City who's just overwhelmed by debt. He says this: it's hard. There's no break. There's no time to breathe. I always have to think about the next step just to survive. It's not like I can look forward and plan because I'm just trying to think about tomorrow.
Well, it's funny, when you said that, what I thought of was, I haven't read this in 100 years, at the very beginning of the novel, not the play, well, the play too, but Les Miserables.
Yeah.
When Jean Valjean goes into that church and is stealing the chalices or whatever. And that's what he's saying. I've been brought down to this. What do I? And that was, mid-19th century France.
But we're very much like that is what we're like. We're right in that same time with the rich, that small group, and then everybody else desperate.
Yeah.
And the deck stacked. The so-called rungs on the ladder that they're supposed to get up have been greased, if not if not sawed off. And there is something truly immoral about how our society is configured now and how we're living. And
one of the worst things you find too is you look at many of these situations when the absolutely richest of people, and I'll be guilty enough that I've paid maids, under the counter and not paid taxes on them as many people have. But, I mean, have been the worst in terms of getting, assistance and all that, where they pay them nothing. And they're illegal immigrants. I mean, and they're the worst. So it's like, it's not that they're rich by just being brilliant businessmen or whatever. It's by, cutting corners and cutting people off who have the least.
That's absolutely right. That's right.
In their pocket and the most to lose.
I know. It's
like slavery.
No,
I mean, it really is in a modern sense like slavery.
It is unconscionable.
Unconscionable is a good word.
And for so many, not to get it. And not to get that ultimately it'll take you down too.
Well, the revolution.
Yeah, we talk about guillotines, heads rolling.
Yeah.
Well, fine. You can screw people just so long.
To a point until everything goes to bloody hell.
And God help us. So they say that, so the poor in America have some access to material things because material things here are what
matter.
That's what America is.
Yeah, right.
We is material things. That's all we are.
We is Walmart.
Right. But the cost of crucial services, those have soared. Those are out of reach. Sure, they can buy a new T-shirt. They can buy a pair of shoes. They can buy a little flat screen television or even a big one. But the fact of the matter is they can't have access to the very services that will allow them to rise out of poverty. And there's something so mean-spirited about people who don't see that, only see that the person who paid with food stamps buying something they think they shouldn't buy.
Right, exactly.
Right? That's what they see.
Yeah.
How dare you have a steak?
Or Malomar bars.
How dare you?
Yes, right. I've seen at one time, because I go to this one branch of Giant Eagle locally, just because it's in proximity to my home, and it serves a large part of its constituency is not on the poverty line, but poorer people. And it's so awful because there's some form of welfare. I'm not sure whether there's certain checks and they have to write on the check what these things are, like milk and whatever. And sometimes these horrible checkout people, sort of saying like, you can't have that, and that volume, and in embarrassing the person who has a little child with them. And one time I just said, "Oh, madam, I was lucky. Here, please."
Right, yeah.
But it's just so everything you do, it's like putting you in that embarrassment. And I'm sure this woman knows that she's doing this quasi illegally, but maybe it keeps her child quiet, who has colic or something. I mean, it's just like rub salt in the wounds till you create sepsis.
It's not like the person who's checking them out is making a ton of money.
No, either.
They might be on food stamps too.
Well, that could be true too.
It could just be a jerk.
Yeah.
All right, well, we got to get a break in here. And when we get back, I see that Ray has written something on the word botch. We will look forward to it after this.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen Live after this.
Download the brand new CP Haps app and find out what's going on in Pittsburgh. It's the fun and free app that puts the most popular events at your fingertips. Text events to 77948 to download now and register to win tickets to see Lady Gaga at the Consol Energy Center on May 7th. The CP Haps app brought to you by Pittsburgh City Paper.
It's the Women in Film and Television International Summit, and it is coming right here, May 16th through the 18th at the Westin. If you are interested in the film and television industry, this is where you will want to be. Panel discussions, screening, speakers. I'm going to be emceeing a dinner Saturday night where we'll honor the director of Twilight, Catherine Hardwicke. To register, just go to WIFTISummit.org. WIFTISummit.org. Oh, by the way, the summit is open to anyone, men included.
Now, it's back to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com.
I'm raising money or something.
All righty, here we are back. We'll see what Ray had to write. Botch. It's one of those great words that changed in meaning. It comes from a word meaning repair.
Oh, that's weird. It's like that diametric opposite.
But evolved to mean ruin by bad workmanship. Mm-hmm. So it should be reserved for a failed attempt to fix something.
Well, thank you, Ray, as always.
Okay. Botch. Good word. A good word. Okay, I just want to say, I don't know if you paid any attention, I never even spoke about it, but this Pittsburgh Steeler who got knifed on the south side, and then there's the trial of these three guys who he said attacked him and tried to carjack him. All three were found not guilty yesterday, which I...
Really? No. Steeler,
no,
you thought he
I know.
Hung.
Exactly. Which I want...
Or injected.
I want to say I predicted. I predicted that verdict.
Yeah.
Because from the beginning of that case, it made no sense. It made zero sense. His story, the Steeler story, did not make would a reasonable
Isn't it interesting?
person...
And maybe I'm maybe botching my logic here, to use that word. But haven't there been, I'd say in the last 6 months, more and more of these stories of either attempted rape or stealing or nabbing where there have been false information? It just seems like there's been more of that recently in the news than I have remembered. Or maybe we're doing more sort of forensic accounting of this, but...
You're not thinking of a specific case?
Well, no, just a bit more and more. Like there was a review of this book. It was interesting about that the lacrosse team at Duke.
At Duke, yes.
And it was very interesting because I had only followed it partly, and basically the lacrosse team was one, I guess, that was winning lots and lots of championships, etc., and was renowned within the campus life of Duke, a very, very fine university in this country, of just by going beyond the pale with its parties and drunkards and bringing
That's
in
true.
prostitutes,
Yes,
etc. And this one woman had brought charges that she was raped, and it turns out that these charges and 3 specific players
And the
were.
district attorney in this case really ran with, agreed with her and went after these guys. And
it turned out that she had lied,
absolutely,
etc.
she had
But
lied.
what was interesting about the book, though, was rather than what you would think of just saying, oh, flip-flop, it was another flop, because the point they made was, even though these guys were wrongfully accused, it turned out the way that Duke, the university, and some of its alumni groups handled it was so much to sort of allow these, like they were what the Greeks used to call kalasgagathos, which meant to be good-looking and to be well thought of, like the prime of whatever, when in fact they were sleazeballs.
The boys.
Yeah, even though in this instance
They had
weren't.
not raped this woman.
And it ended with this damning thing. It's something like, well, if you want to send your child to Duke, you better read this book. It was really damning.
Huh. So I want to just staying on the police blotter.
And this is very interesting, given the whole thing with the Sterling guy and sports and how sports are regarded both by the Goonie players in some instances and the lunatic owners.
So here, just one other case, which I have already mentioned in the past, where a Pittsburgh police officer shot and killed a man in Wilkinsburg. This happened just a week or so ago, April 21st. And I suggested that something seemed awry here, and I still think so. So now the district attorney has come out with the coroner's report, and the guy who was shot, who's now dead, first of all was shot 6 times. Okay, and it said 2 of the bullets entered through the rear of his right shoulder. Another hit him in the buttocks. Okay, what does that tell you?
The shooter was behind him.
That's what it tells you.
Yeah.
I don't know how.
Unless you have bullets that can dance.
I don't know how it tells you anything else. And if you're shooting a man in the back, if you're shooting somebody who's running away,
that person can't be what's the word?
A threat.
A threat to you. Yeah.
Right.
Exactly.
And here's the weird quote from Zappala. He's not running away. That's what he says. He says, there is video that explains how these types of shots would appear on his body.
Ricochet? I don't know.
What? I think what he said, they're going to argue that getting shot in the back is no indication that, it's beyond me. It's beyond me. And they said he had, a gun, which is why they were shooting at him. But the gun was not found on him. The gun was found away from the body. And then they said, well, he threw the gun away. Well, if he threw the gun away, he wasn't a threat anymore.
Well, that could be a delicate point when you throw it.
When you throw it, okay. But I'm sorry, if you're hit in the buttocks and in your back, the shoulder.
Yeah.
Well, how? Watch this cop walk. Watch this cop walk. Here you have a white cop. Here you have a dead black guy who was not an angel. The gun was illegal. He couldn't have a gun. Blah blah blah. There was a car chase, and he ran even though the cops were telling him to stop. Fine and dandy. I don't think that should be a capital offense, and this guy should not be dead.
Exactly.
Beyond me. So, okay. Did I just see a thing come in here? No, apparently not. Okay. So, what else do I have? God, I got such an... Oh, this is one of those things. Do you get manicures?
No, look at my fingers. I'm
God, he's a nail biter. You manicure.
Yeah, right.
Right.
I'm like the manicure of the wild.
That's like, that's like self-cannibalization.
Oh, I know. It's a horrible.
I've been known to
but I'm just
cuticles.
You've
done it all. Yeah, have you done it all your life?
All my life.
And there's nothing, you've never been able to
remember I
stop.
had this great aunt who was a nun, and what was her thing? Nasty nails tell tales.
God. And it just made
But it
you want to
doesn't-
bite them more.
Oh, like, yeah,
no,
give her,
I
like-
know.
Well, yeah, but
So
I
it's-
think that was funny. I was just thinking about this other days. You'll think about going for a job interview or something like that. And, it's not that's the first thing you see, but I mean, when you're sitting there in your fingers and they're not pretty.
They're not pretty. Oh, and you think it says something about you to people that's not.
Oh, I think so. I mean,
That's better than sucking your thumb.
yeah, I suppose.
Sitting in a job interview, sucking
Yeah,
your
right.
thumb is a...
Or
absolute-
chewing during the
Yeah, right.
interview.
Yeah. Well, okay. So here's some news out that'll freak women out. Those dryers.
Oh, it's on nails too.
After you have,
they dry. Yes.
you sit under these
Yeah, right.
lights, and it dries quickly. Supposedly. Ladies, nail salon dryers, which use ultraviolet light to speed the drying and hardening of your nail polish and gels, emit varying levels of radiation. But because you don't know if you're getting a ton or not, the fact is that there have been instances where they do believe that women have developed skin cancer
Jeez.
from... It's the same stuff. What you're doing with your nails when they're drying under those things, it's like lying in a tanning bed. It's the same. It's the same thing. So.
And you're probably even closer.
Oh,
to
right. You maybe so. And so if you do, a lot of women now. A lot of women do these nails.
Triple colored,
and then these things are like gels.
Yeah.
And they require a lot of exposure to the UV. They put on one coat, and then you have to sit and be radiated, and then another coat, and then you have to be
Well,
radiated.
for the longest time, I remember when the AIDS crisis first started, there was this whole deal about you should go, when you go to one of these nail salons, bring your own cuticles and whatever, because
you can really get infections. Yeah.
Right. And then also, this is going to sound racist, but many of those had like young, sometimes illegal immigrants from third world parts of the country, used to call the third world, and maybe their hygiene wasn't. So it was like the most dangerous place to go was to get your nails done.
Well, it still is somewhat dangerous, and now there's these new. A lot of women are getting gel instead of and the gel requires a lot more of this curing under UV light, and not to freak anybody out, because here's this big headline.
So be like Sokolowski and just chew on them and live with it.
Right, you'll live
You'll be
longer.
a better person.
They're saying the risk is extremely low, but they think women should know. But there also is a vast range in the amount of light coming out of these devices, and we have no way. You have no way of testing them.
I'm sure there's no government stand. Well, there is, but I'm sure those crappy salons.
And you know what they do is they damage your DNA.
Oh, lovely.
And enough DNA damage can lead to skin cancer.
Lovely.
And here's the one that makes you pause. Researchers estimated that for most of the lamps that they tested, just 8 to 14 visits to a nail salon over, get this, a 2 to 4 year period would reach the threshold of DNA damage.
Jeez.
Now, most women who do nails do it once a week, once every 2 weeks.
Yeah, sure.
So they've reached that 8 to 14 visits
within 6 months, maybe. Well, never mind. Do you remember? You're old enough, and maybe some of our listeners as well. Do you remember as a kid they used to have in shoe departments these machines?
Oh,
you
heck
put your
yeah!
feet in, and they would give you radar.
I did. Did you? I used to stand.
Oh, yeah.
You used to stand in this machine and look down. You could see the bones in your feet. It was an X-ray machine.
And I'm never sure. I can't remember why they did that.
I think so. Who knows? It was just radiation was new. It was this wondrous thing. So I do remember there was one kid shoe store in Green Bay. It was called Lou's Bootery. And we would...
What a perfect name. It's like something out of Kurt Vonnegut. Lou's Bootery.
Lou's Bootery. And I spent so many
Happy moments.
Happy moments, staring at the bones in my feet, radiating my feet at Lou's
Because I'm saying,
Bouderie.
they could just have that machine that sizes them. Why would they need to?
I don't know. It was the thing. Radiation was like considered. That's why you always have to be careful of
Sure, these new, yeah.
Because about the same time that I was radiating my feet in Lou's Bouderie, I actually just around the corner at the doctor's office, my neck was being irradiated.
Oh, wow.
Because I'd had a bad accident, and when I was 6 or 7, and then I'd had surgery to repair all the damage to my neck, and there was a huge scar on my neck, and it was the medical wisdom at the time was, oh, you don't want this pretty little girl to have this horrible disfiguring scar.
Yes.
So we'll radiate it, and that will fade the scar.
Oh.
So I used to lie there. They'd stick lead stuff all over the rest of me, and they would just irradiate the hell out of my neck.
Did you have burns?
I don't remember the burns. All I know is 20 years later, 25 years later, there is a tumor the size of a baseball in my neck.
Oh, my God.
On my thyroid. And there was no doubt.
That
was
had something to do
right.
with it, yeah.
So radiation, they didn't understand how, they just didn't get it. And to this day, I now have a very high risk for thyroid cancer.
Really?
And I have to see a doctor 3 times a year, and I still do. I grow things on what's left of they took most of my thyroid out, and I'm constantly growing things and constantly going in for ultra this and that.
Yeah.
And all because of the best.
Lou's Bouderie.
Not Lou's Bouderie, but the doctors.
Oh, the doctors.
Then at the time.
Well, it's funny, when you said you clicked, I remember Helen Bozak.
Oh, is that
at the
what
home
you were-
store. Helen Bozak, and she'd do that, and I remember she was a tremendous gossip. So when you went to buy your child shoes, Helen would fill you in on the gossip, and she would talk while you had your feet in this radiating thing, and she'd be telling you a juicy story, your mother a juicy story. They really got,
And you'd be wiggling your toes and watching your bones.
Watch your bones crack and burn under that.
Well, you know what?
The
A
Middle
lot of-
Ages of American middle class.
I think there were some studies of what happened to the owners of those shoe stores who
because
had
they
those
were-
machines, because they were constantly getting radiation.
Yeah, right, because, yeah, sure.
Now, I know Lou, who owned Lou's Bouderie, and he did live a long life.
But he had 3 heads.
No, he didn't. And you know what else he did? He worked on Sundays. He did the, what did he do? He worked for the Packers, and he did something like announce what down it was and what, so Lou did that way up until the stadium announcer, until Lou Weinstein of Lou's Bouderie. All right. So, geez.
From botch to Bouderies.
From botch to Bouderies. And the man shot a gay guy. I think I pretty much covered what I wanted to cover. I have something else here, but it's way too heavy to get into.
Okay.
It has to do with net neutrality again, and it's very confusing, this FCC commissioner that we were excoriating the other day, because there's all these quotes in the paper today of him saying that he will not, let me be clear, if someone acts to divide the internet between haves and have-nots, we will use every power at our disposal to stop it. But I thought this was the guy who last week we were being told is promulgating new rules that will allow Comcast and these others to have a faster lane for people who can pay them for it. So now he seems to be over here, and we'll talk more about it. Apparently it's complicated. Maybe he's not quite as much a bad guy as we had been led to believe. I don't know. But there is concern. Apparently, he heard some of the screaming and ranting and raving that occurred last
That's thought
last
better
week.
of his decision.
Yeah, really. Did you notice Tom's new glasses? Ain't they cool? They're wonderful color blue on the side, and then
green on the front.
I bet you have.
I have a horse of many colors.
Glasses aren't cheap, so this is.
Well, that's not so much the glasses. The lenses aren't cheap. Oy.
Yeah. I know.
Especially when you're terribly blind and have astigmatism and all this other kind of lunacy.
Yeah. Wait till you get cataracts on top of it.
Yeah, but those they can just take out if you get them done properly.
That is true. That is true. Those they can just peel away. All right, I think that's it. Is it supposed to be sunny today? It looks like it can't figure.
Oh,
it's not.
cloudy.
It's supposed to be.
Cloudy all day.
But it was sunny in the morning, though, early on when we were coming in. It was nice. Yeah.
Yeah, the sun was out.
Yeah, I guess it was.
It was, but
But the sun will come out tomorrow, as what's her name says.
Annie?
Annie, yes.
The sun will come out tomorrow. Do you know who played Annie on Broadway, the first Annie?
Something McCardle.
I don't think. I think
Yes.
she's like the current one.
No, because she...
Was it McCardle?
Yeah.
Because I was thinking it was Sarah Jessica
No,
Parker.
she wasn't the first one. She was one, but she wasn't the first one. No, it was this one because I remember she then, quite recently, played like the bitchy...
Oh,
Yeah, because it was...
who was the first
25
Annie
years or
now
something.
became
Yeah,
the bitchy
right,
Miss
right.
Hanrahan or
Yeah,
whatever her
something
name
like
is.
that, yeah.
Okay, well, there you have it. Whatever that was.
That important piece of information.
Right.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Tom will be joining us again in 2 weeks' time.
Yes.
Okay. Cannot be here next week. And I think Chris Potter will be joining us tomorrow. So, hope you will too.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.